Hi team, thanks for joining me. My name's Peter. I'm the Director of Health and Fitness Testing New Zealand. Today we're going to take a look at how you can interpret your Fit3d Posture Report. And I've got lots of tips and tricks towards the end of the video to help you prevent pain, discomfort and injury. Once you've had your first Fit3d body scan, your posture report will take a bit longer to process. It generally takes between 15 minutes and up to 2 days. When it has processed, you'll receive an email from Fit3d notifying you that you've got a new posture report, and you'll also be able to view your posture report. It'll get added to your main Fit3d dashboard. Now you can view your report whenever you like. Go to fit3d.com and log in, and just scroll down on the main wellness report page and you'll be able to view all your results. A couple of things to note before I push on. The view that I'm using is a computer view for this video. So if you have access to a computer, it may match up with the view that you're seeing on the screen better than what it will on your phone or tablet. The other thing to note is at the time I've made this video, I've administered about 10,000 body scans myself, and I've never ever seen a perfect posture report. So don't be alarmed if you do have numbers that are not zero on your own report. As you scroll down your wellness report, the first posture view you'll see will be the front-on view. There'll be an image of you on the left with some lines on it, and on the right will be a table with some metrics. This first metric we'll take a look at is the shift. Now the shift is looking at, is your body shifted towards the left side of the black vertical plumb line, or is it shifted towards the right, or is it in the center being 0. So in this example, it shows the head is 0.9 centimeters shifted towards the right-hand side, and the shoulders are shifted towards the left 1.3 centimeters. With the underbust, hips, knees pretty similar to 0. Then if we move over to the tilt is looking at the notches on the left versus the right, or the circles in the image. Horizontal, an exact horizontal line would be 0 degrees tilt. So it's just looking how much are you tilted off that horizontal line. In this particular example, it's showing the head was 11.6% tilted towards the right. So if it's the head example, you can imagine that your right ear was most likely closer to your right shoulder than the left ear was to the left shoulder. And as it goes through that report, it's just showing that the shoulders, underbust, hips were all tilted slightly more to the right-hand side, and the knees were about the same. If you click on the back view for your posture report, you will notice that the results in the table exactly replicate those on the front view. So like we were looking at before, the shift of the head is 0.9 centimeters to the right, and the tilt of the head is 11.6% to the right. So they will exactly replicate each other. Next, we'll take a look at the side-on posture report. So the side-on posture report, in the image, you'll see the black plumb line, the vertical line, which will be lined up from the center of your ankle bone. And each of the blue circles, or the blue lines, will be showing whether those particular parts of the body are forward or back of that line. The most common is what we'd see would be the forward of the line. It's pretty rare that we'll see many people standing backwards from the line. The head in this example is showing that it's 7.3 centimeters further forward than the line. The shoulders 5.8, the hips 6.3, and the knees 4.6. So we have seen a relationship in the clinic between those who have, especially the head and shoulders, more than 3 or 4 centimeters forward consistently on multiple scans, and the relationship between increased headaches, neck pain, shoulder pain, and arm pain. So if you have a side-on posture report with those metrics higher than 3 to 4 centimeters forward, this will be just a nudge to do something about it. And the same goes for the hips. Those who have hips that are too far forward will often have quite a large arch in the lower back, like the person in this picture in front of us, which can contribute to hip pain, hamstring injuries for sprinters, and lower back pain. Providing the weight scales were turned on when you had your body scan, it'll give you a 4-point weight distribution, and it's just looking at the moment you stood there when it took your weight, how was that distributed between the front, back, left and right on your feet. The most common, what we'd see in the clinic, would be 95% of people or more stand more on their heels, and I've never ever seen anyone have a perfect standing posture. But if you do have large discrepancies between the left and right side, it could be something worth thinking about when you're standing. If you're doing a lot of standing, then not putting too much pressure on one leg, alternate the leg that you're standing on more. Or you can also have a think about if you're doing squats or deadlifts or two-legged type of training for your sport, just making sure that you're using both legs to push through. For those of you wanting to analyse your posture in more detail, whether that be for sport performance or injury prevention, it may also be valuable to take a look at the left versus right views on your circumference measurements. So sometimes if you're seeing some significant differences in your left versus right circumferences and maybe your left versus right standing posture, that could give you some additional information to help prevent pain and discomfort. For those of you who really want to geek out in terms of looking at posture and muscle imbalances, you can actually download a whole lot of additional metrics. Once you're logged in your Fit3d platform on a computer, just go to the 3 horizontal line icon in the top left, then click on Scan History, click on one of the 3D images, and in the bottom right of your screen will give you an option to download additional measurements. When you download those, a whole lot of metrics will come up. I've just highlighted some on the screen, for example, left versus right arm volume and leg volume. You will see that over time, so it just shows every row is a different scan this person's had, the first being down the bottom, the most recent at the top. But if you were looking for imbalances left versus right, that information could be quite helpful. The most valuable view in your Fit3d Posture Report is a side-on view. The front and back views, you really want to gather more information before you embark on a significant training regime for the front and back views. And you can gain that information through an assessment with a well-qualified physiotherapist, osteopath or chiropractor. The only thing I would say about your front-on view is the neck. One stretch you could probably do for your neck is if you had a tilt to one side. For example, if your head is showing as a tilt over to the side more than a couple of percent, what you could consider is stretching the muscles on that side. What that could indicate is that the muscles on the left-hand side in this example could be getting tight. The reason they could get tight is through repetitive mouse use, leaning on that side. If you're driving a car or doing a lot of work in a car, for example, always leaning on the middle car rest. Or if you're doing something repetitive on one side, could cause the overdevelopment and tightness of muscles on that side. So one stretch you could try would be having your hands down by your sides, and you're just going to lightly grab your head with your right hand and slightly pull the neck over to the right side. You've got to completely relax the left arm when you're doing this stretch, and you might hold it for as long as you desire. If you're not used to it, just pull it really gently and start with about 10 seconds. And that might just help lengthen some of the muscles on the left side of the neck that are becoming shortened. Now we'll take a look at the side-on view. So the first metric you'll see on the side-on view of your report will be looking at the head. And most commonly what we'll see in posture reports is the head too far forward. And what that indicates essentially on a side-on view is people are poking their head forward too much, which is really common these days if we think about like phone use, or if we think about laptops and tablets. A lot of our lives are really forward based. So we need to do movements that counter that. One of the best movements I know, and one of the most common exercises given out by physiotherapists in New Zealand for neck pain, are chin tucks. Now the perfect chin tuck, you want to be sitting, you want to have your hands down by your sides. You might even have like a cushion underneath your shoulder blades just to open up your chest. And you look straight ahead and you're going to tuck your chin in like a drawer. So you're just trying to tuck in and create a double chin. And for every hour that you spend sitting or using your phone or tablet, you should be trying to do at least one or more of those chin tucks to counter all the forward-based postures that you're doing. They've even videoed, even if you try and create a chin tuck throughout the whole day, They've even videoed people in offices and they knew they were being videoed, and on average, people's head creeps forward 15% every half an hour, and those were people that knew they were being videoed. So I'm sure those people are not being videoed, their results would be worse. So yeah, chin tucks is a good one for the head forward posture. When we're moving down that side-on report, the next thing that you're going to see is the shoulders. Now, if the shoulders are forward, particularly for any of these side-on metrics, if any of the numbers are more than 3 to 4 centimeters forward, you want to do something about it. So if the shoulders are forward, they may be indicating some roundness of the shoulders or indicating a sort of a hunch in the mid-back. Now, one of the things you can do for the mid-back is to keep it mobile on a regular basis. Again, if you have a job that's sitting or very forward-based, then we can get quite tight over time. So really easy things that you can do whilst you're sitting at your desk would be to open up the body. So stretch the chest, which you can just put your arms behind you like this, you wedge on the back of the chair, and then just hold it for a second. Also, our mid-backs are responsible for rotation a lot. So all you need to do is twist around to the side and then repeat and twist to the other side. And you only need to hold it for a second and it will just loosen up your mid-back. That combination alone, a chin tuck, a twist, and this, you could add in a stand up and sit down. If you're repeating it every hour, that could do absolute wonders for neck pain prevention and prevention of shoulder pain and tightness. For those of you who sit a lot, I've got a couple of adjuncts that will make you feel amazing. The first is you can use these D rolls or lumbar rolls. They're mainly used for the lower back. But one of the best tricks I've got is that you can use it for your mid-back by putting it vertical down the spine instead of horizontal for the lower back where they're mainly used. So I'll just show you in the video. It's a bit hard to see black on black. You're just trying to place it vertical. Make sure your chair's upright and fixed. It is absolutely essential that your chair is fixed if you're going to have good posture. If your chair allows you to lean back all the time, there's no way you're going to have good posture when you're sitting at work. So yeah, you just place it vertical down the spine. What that does, instead of letting your spine collapse forward, it just rests and is a constant reminder for you just to open up your chest. And if you can just open up your chest on a regular basis, you're less likely to have this tightness up in your shoulders and on the front of the chest. You can do the same thing, so that's with the D roll. You can do the same thing just with a towel. So if you don't have access to a D roll, you can just roll up a towel, or if you just want to try it before you invest in a D roll, the same thing, you just roll up a towel, place it vertical down the spine, and it will just open up the body. So if you've never tried it and you do suffer from some tightness in your neck and shoulders, I'd 100% give that a go. The adjunct I want to talk about is a foam roller. Okay, so there's various types of foam rollers. This is just a short 40 centimeter one. They come in different lengths. Some of them have dimples, some of them have different circumferences. This is what I'd call a standard one. Now, these are a really handy tool, particularly for those who get that mid-back tightness, or if your Fit3d body scan report, the posture is showing that your shoulders are forward more than 3 to 4 centimeters. Again, that client that we were talking about earlier that has that kind of hunched mid-back and tight chest, the foam roller can really open up the joints in your mid-back. So I'm just going to give you, there's two things you can do on it. One is you could be lying over the roller and you just lie there with it vertical down the body. Or the one that I recommend the most is lying on your back and putting it horizontal across your back. For example, approximately bra line. I'll just give you a quick demonstration. So you just be lying on your back and you're going to place it just below the shoulder blades and then just lie backwards, and you're trying to get your head on the ground and your shoulders and hands on the ground. Now for some people that's going to be really tight, they won't be able to do that, so you may need 1 or 2 pillows behind your head. And if you suffer from high or low blood pressure, you might be a little bit wary with this exercise, and just consult your health professional before you try it. Now the lower part, approximately brow line for women, or the lower part of the base of the shoulder blades for men. That's usually the hardest, and it's quite hard to get back. So if you're not used to it, I would suggest placing the foam roller a little bit higher up the mid-back or the thoracic spine, and then you're just trying to lean back and get your head there. Usually I'll get people to hold that for about 30 seconds and about 3 or 4 spots in the mid-back, and that can really open up the chest. It's a bit stiff the first couple of times, but I've got multiple people giving us feedback that it can really help in terms of managing long-term mid-back and neck pain. You can always top that up by doing some additional just dynamic rolling of the mid-back muscles as well. So some people quite like that. The rollers are really handy. These days you can pick them up for as cheap as $10 and they last for ages. So definitely something to consider if your posture report is showing that you have particularly the shoulders rounded type of posture. I should also mention that if the roll is a bit too intense to start off, like if you're really not used to this type of thing, then again you can start with a towel just rolled up and you just place it on the same spots on the mid-back, horizontal, or you can also try vertical, and just dry with small amounts of towel to start off, and once you get used to the towel you could progress to the foam roller. Here's some additional stretches that you can try if your shoulders are forward a few centimeters on your posture report, or if you do get a sort of tightness on the front of your shoulders. One will be simply, people can stand in a doorway, so you can put your hands up either side of the doorway and then just slowly lean your body into it, and varying the angle from arms out, upper arms at sort of horizontal, and then angling them up a bit further and holding those for 10 to 30 seconds. That can just open up the chest as well. Other options on that in terms of with your chest, you can just use your table or your chair. In this case I've just got a Swiss ball, so you can use a Swiss ball where you just kind of lean into it like that. And again, you can vary that angle if need be, just in terms of opening up that chest. While we're on that topic, if you do have a Swiss ball instead of a foam roller, you can actually lie over the ball itself to help open up the body too. For those of you who want a couple of dynamic alternatives to help loosen up your mid-back and your shoulders, I've got 2 stretches for you. So the first one is, you could be on your hands and knees, and it's called thread the needle. You're just trying to grab one hand and just slowly creep your fingers all the way across to the other side. And it's really going to rotate your mid-back. Try and just relax your head down in front of you, and then you'd slide it back. You might repeat a couple on each side, or just simply go straight to the other side, go through. Again, it just rotates that mid-back. The second stretch is, you can bring one foot forward, hands either side of the foot, and then you're just trying to keep your eyes on this top hand and breathe out as we come up and then come down. When you're doing it, try not to just move the shoulder, but think about moving your mid-back or your thoracic spine. So you come up, breathe out, and then rotate. An alternative to that is, you can do the same thing lying on your side. So hands out in front of you, head can be resting on a pillow or on the ground, eyes follow the hand, and you breathe out and go behind you. Again, try and make sure you don't just use the shoulder, but use your mid-back, and you might just breathe out. You don't have to hold it, just going behind you, and then come back and making sure the hips stay still. So there's just a couple of dynamic ideas for those of you who want a bit more of a loosen up for those mid-back and shoulders. Next, we're going to move further down the body when looking at your side-on posture report. So if you're side-on view, your hips are forward by any amount really, but if it's more than 3 or 4 centimeters, we've got some tips on what you can do about it. Now, what is quite common, there's a strong relationship between those with a hip forward posture and those with quite an arch or an hyperlordosis in their lower back, and that itself can contribute to some ongoing pain in your back and hips. So I just want to show you a standing posture to be aware of. A lot of people, they stand with this big arch in their lower back. So if you think you're one of those people, it would be important to learn the difference between standing with an arch and knowing how to tuck your lower back under and flatten it out. Now you can practice this side on in a mirror with your top off, just between arching and tucking, or if you really struggle with that, you can practice this just lying on your back with your hands under your back and you're just pushing your back into the ground and then releasing, just getting used to using that pelvis and knowing the difference between your back being arched and tucked can be a really powerful thing, particularly if you get standing related discomfort. Now the opposite of that is those who sit too much. If you've got a job where you sit all day, very common these days, people go home and they'll watch TV or Netflix, whatever it may be, and they'll use those L-shaped couches where you put your feet up, or their feet are up on a coffee table, maybe you're up against the backboard in your bed reading or watching something. Now that itself, if you combine that long sitting position with sitting all day, that is 100% going to lead to a flare up in back, neck, shoulder discomfort at some stage. It just really winds up the nerve system in our bodies and we don't like it. So what can you do about that? You want to try and one is minimize that long sitting position, and a couple of exercises you could try on a regular basis that are the opposite to sitting. One for work is just simply when you stand up, put your hands on your bottom and lean backwards. There's not much to it. You could repeat that in sets of 5 to 10 if it feels good. Maybe breathe out and come back and breathe in. The idea is just to keep your knees and hips still throughout. The other one is if you're at home or if you've got a space at work, just lying face down, let the arms do all the work. Your back and your bottom are relaxed and you go up and you breathe out. If you've done any yoga before, it's commonly called the cobra stretch. When you go up, you breathe out, relax your back and bottom, and then come down and breathe in. And just make sure you straighten your arms at the top. Again, people like to repeat those in 5 or 10. Going back to the side-on posture report and the hips being tight. So if your hips are too far forward, what you want to do is really stretch out those hip flexors. For two things, they'll take less pressure off your hips and they can also take pressure off your lower back. So some really common stretches that you can try is you just grab your office chair, and you can be just standing there and pop your foot up behind you, and you might have to have one foot a little bit further forward and make your body upright. And like we talked about before, you could try and slightly tuck your lower back. You should get a good stretch on the front of your hip. If your balance isn't so good, make sure you just hold on to your desk during this. The second version is trying that same thing, just kneeling on the floor. So one foot's on there, and then you're just in that position. Make sure you tuck under, or if you want to view from the other leg, just in that position, get that right foot nice and far forward, and try and really just tuck under gently with that lower back. A common mistake is people try and lean too far forward and stick their chest out, and all they're doing is winding up their lower back. They're not getting as much out of the stretch for that hip flexors. So yeah, there's a couple of hip flexor stretches just to try to loosen up that pressure for those of you who have that forward posture on the side-on hip view. Finally, we're going to take a look at the side-on posture report at the knees. Now, if your posture report at the knees is more than 3 or 4 centimeters forward, it could indicate in some circumstances that there's a tightness of your quad muscles, the 4 muscles on the front of your thigh. An easy stretch for that is just standing. You can hold on to the back of your chair for balance, grab one foot and pull it up behind you. And in this position, again, if you're one of those people that has quite an arch in the lower back, you want to try and tuck your bottom underneath you. And when you do that, that'll just give you a nice stretch on the front of the thigh. If you really do struggle with that, you might just have to start with the hip flexor stretch that we've previously shown with your foot up behind you. You can also do a side-on quad stretch if you are at home. Again, you could get rid of the chair, and if you're on the ground, you can easily lie on your side, have both legs straight, pull one leg up behind you, and keep that top leg, the knee in line with the other thigh, and then just hold. It's a nice version if you do get some discomfort in terms of kneeling or your balance isn't so good.